All right, here we go. This one's going to be a 357 SIG test. And today we're going to be trying out some of my hand loads. So we do have quite a few to get through today. This is probably going to be a long, boring video like I said before, but should definitely still be a fun one. So for the first one, that one is the 115 grain Speer Gold Dot. That's what that thing looks like. It is loaded in your nickel-plated brass. I actually loaded them all with nickel-plated brass, and they all have CCI number 500 primers and pistol primers. So there's what that thing looks like. It is loaded with 10 grains of Longshot. Should be getting right around 1,500 feet per second. And for a second one, that one is the 115 grain Nosler. So that one looks like. It is loaded exactly the same with 10 grains of Longshot. Should be getting right around that same velocity. So for the third one, that one is the Hornady XTP 124 grain. And I did load that one with 9.3 grains of Longshot. Should be getting right around 1,430 feet per second. These are all right at max. I did test them earlier and we're getting some really nice velocities, so definitely stay tuned for that. And for a fourth one, that one is the 125 grain Xero SportsMaster. So it does look a little bit different. It does have a pretty wide hollow point cavity on that one, and is also loaded with 9.3 grains of Longshot. And for our last one, that one is the 96 grain Velocitus VX9. This one is a solid copper hollow point. This is the only one that does have different powder in it. I did load it with 8.3 grains of CFE pistol. And that one should be getting right around 1,650. So we'll see how close we come today with all these different loads. So we are going to be testing it with our Glock 32. That one does have that 4-inch barrel. We'll be going through our gel. Those are 10% calibrated blocks. Do you have a catch block behind that? So total 22 inches gel, 4 layers of cotton t-shirt on the front. And like always, we'll set up our chronographs and hopefully pick up those impact velocities. So let's set up and get all these things tested. First one up will be that Speer Gold Dot. All right, we're setting back to 15 feet. All right, let's see how we did on that one. All right, so it looks like our impact velocity on that one was 1589, so that's awesome to see. I did load it around that 1500 mark. That was right at max at the 10 grain, so really good to see that, we definitely exceeded that, and the thing definitely felt pretty spicy. Unfortunately, we didn't catch a reading on our Garmin. I did do a couple off-screen shots, and it was literally right around the same, so definitely good. All right, so there's that hit. Looks like I got a pretty good shot on that block. You can see right down in there a pretty big star pattern. You can actually see fragmentation already, and that's definitely not good because that is a bonded bullet. Of course, that one is a 9mm bullet. It's definitely not meant, to be at those speeds. It's usually around the 1,200 feet per second mark. So hit 15, that's kind of expected, or almost 16 actually. But there it is from the top. You can see as soon as that thing came in, pretty much on contact, opened up. And definitely getting some really nice star patterns going through there, dumping a ton of energy. Looks like it carried it pretty much the whole way through that first block, and it did settle down just a little bit, and we actually did make it into the second block. I actually didn't expect that because I thought it was going to open up or come apart so much that it didn't get that much penetration, but that's awesome to see there. So let's see what kind of measurement we have here from the top. Like always, we'll cut these open later, get a little more accurate cross-section measurement, but while we're out here, we're right at 2 inches, and it does look like it's going up and down more than left to right, so that's probably why the measurement isn't the biggest, but 2 inches, still pretty darn good. That one is a 115 grain bullet, but here it is from the side. Oh yeah, definitely a little bit different. You can see as soon as that thing came in, it looks like it's dumping a little bit of lead, maybe really, really small pieces. It looks like about in the middle of that track there is a pedal, but you can see a ton of energy dump. And like I said, man, that's pretty much carrying the whole way through that first block, which is surprising. They usually do taper off, that last few inches, but looks like it's maintaining it pretty good. And then it did settle down a little bit, and it's resting right there in that second block. So awesome to see. Super excited to be testing these hand loads and see what they can actually do, because I'm sick of getting that underpowered stuff from pretty much every other company. But anyway, so it looks like from the widest spot From the side, we are about 3 1/8 inches, so definitely a little bit more from the side than the top, which is awesome to see. And then there that slug is. It is pretty much facing forward, and at our leading edge there, we are at about 3 3/4. So I made it 14 3/4 inches of total penetration. So really good stuff there. So let's set it for that Nosler and see how that one does. All right, we're setting back to 15 feet. All right, let's see what we did on that one. All right, so it looks like our impact velocity on that one was 1542. So once again, that is great to see. I did load those around 1500, and that is what Underwood is asking, about 1550. So good to see that we're pretty much right on par with them. Actually, that's if you're lucky. Lately, Underwood's been not all that great, but anyways. All right, so there's that hit. Looks like you got another really good shot, and actually perfect shot. You can see right down in there, a huge star pattern so far. So let's check it out from the top. Oh yeah, definitely some nasty stuff. So it looks like pretty much as soon as that thing came in, just like the last one, instant expansion, maybe a little bit of an explosion. We definitely knew that one wasn't going to hold together. Those nozzles usually don't, but man, they create some nasty damage. And then it does look like it did taper off pretty quickly. See quite a bit of fragmentation, and that one also made it into that second block. So that's definitely good to see there. Once again, I wasn't really sure what to expect, and wasn't sure if it was going to make it out. But what we're going to do is measure the majority of the track, and then we'll measure with all these pedals that are shearing off. So at the widest spot, we're about 2 3/4. Looks like we might have lost one out of the side of the block, but at our widest spot there, we're at 4 1/4. So that's actually quite a bit more than that Gold Dot, which is definitely pretty surprising, but kind of expected as well, because those pedals are just coming off. Man, that is a nasty track. So let's check it out from the side. So here it is from the side. Pretty much same thing, man. As soon as that one came in, exploded in there. It looks like, yeah, we might have lost one little pedal or a chunk of lead or something coming out of the side of that block, but you can see that crazy looking star pattern going through, a little star burst that it went, and then you can't see where it did settle down. There's pretty much fragmentation all the way through that track though, and we did make it into that second block. So let's see what kind of measurement we have here, but man, that is actually very impressive. Didn't know what to expect, but kind of expect something along those lines. And at our widest spot there, we are right at actually just over 3 3/4 inches. So that's pretty impressive. Actually, it looks like we do have a blowout here on top. I didn't notice that from the top, but yeah, it looks like we have a blowout. So that one was definitely packing a punch. And those velocities are great to see. You can see that one is facing downward. Looks like it held together pretty good, besides shedding some of that stuff. And it looks like, let's move this block a little bit, looks like we're about 1.5 inches. So that one made it a total of 12.5 inches of penetration. So that's still really good to see. So now we're going to set it for that 124 grain XTP and see how that one does. All right, we're setting back to 15 feet. All right, let's see what we did on that one. All right, looks like our impact velocity on that one was 1495. So once again, great to see. Usually Underwood's right around that 1475. Like I said, that's if you're lucky. So we're pushing about 1500 feet per second with those. Really good to see. I actually do have a couple other ones. They're loaded a little extra spicy, but we'll probably save that for next time. But anyways, great numbers there. All right, so there's the hit on this one. Looks like I got a perfect shot on that block. You can see right down in there, and another huge star pattern, man. These things have been very impressive and super fun to test so far. So let's check it out from the top. Oh yeah, definitely quite a bit of damage. So it looks like as soon as that one came in, started getting some nice expansion. You can already see little lead chunks, a little bit of fragmentation. Looks like there's a couple petals throughout there as well. But man, it's carrying a ton of energy through there. It is tapering off just a little bit towards that last probably 2-3 inches, and then it did settle down and flatline, and we did actually make it into that second block, and actually quite a ways into this second block, a little bit more than that, those other two, which is kind of expected. It is a little bit heavier, and XTP is more of like a hunting round for that extra end penetration. So good stuff there. It looks like we did end up losing one petal out the side, but at our widest spot here, which actually looks like it's about in the middle of the block, is 3 1/4 inches. So that's very impressive and pretty much on par with every other sig test that we've done. So it's really good to see that these hand loads that I've been messing with are doing good. But anyways, here's from the side. You can see that thing came in, opened up pretty much immediately. You can see all those little lead chunks going all over the place. So it definitely came apart. Those things weren't meant for those extreme speeds, but man, they definitely take it. But you can see it's carrying that energy almost all the way through. Maybe that last, let's see, inch and a half where it started to settle down, and then it did flatline. There's quite a bit more fragmentation in that second block, and there it is resting in that second block. So good stuff, man. So let's see what kind of measurement we have here from the side. We're going to do it without the petals first. We're right around 2 inches. With those extra petals that ended up coming off, we are right at 3 inches. So, still quite a bit, a little bit less from the side than the top, but very impressive. It looks like that thing is facing downward, and it's pretty gnarly looking. And then at our leading edge there, we are at 6.5 inches. So I made a total of 17.5 inches of penetration. So, once again, awesome to see. So we're going to set up for that Sierra SportsMaster and see how that one does. All right, we're setting back to 15 feet. All right, let's see how we did on that one. All right, so it looks like our impact velocity on that one was 1450 on the dot. So once again, that's awesome to see. We're not getting any of those slouch numbers today. Like I said, this is the first time loading 357 sig. Didn't really know what to expect, and super excited and happy that we're getting these type of numbers. And that is pretty much your baseline for 357 Magnum, 125 grain bullet at 1450. So great that we're able to match that and exceed that with this sig. And like I said, these are loaded to the max, but there's still room for a little bit more powder in those things. So far so good. At the end I will show our brass and primers and all that stuff, just to show that we're not getting any pressure signs or anything. And it looks like we're doing pretty good so far. So let's check this stuff out from the front. Looks like we got another really good hit on that block. You can see right down in there, that one has a pretty big hole and a nice star pattern so far. So let's check this one out from the top. So I actually did have to flip the block. I didn't want these paths to collide, so that's why it is kind of coming in the opposite way. But you can see, same as all the rest, man. Came in, opened up really nicely, dumping a ton of energy. Looks like maybe towards those last couple inches it is settling down. There is a huge chunk of copper in there, so that thing's definitely coming apart, and I kind of expected. Those are 9mm bullets, and they're not meant to withstand these velocities, but it did make it into that second block, so always good. So let's see what kind of measurement from the top. It looks like we do have a little bit more up and down than left and right, but and it looks like we might have lost a little bit out the side as well. But from, let's see, from the top, we are just shy of 2 3/4 inches. So definitely very impressive. And, you know, like I said, it's awesome to see those numbers. I know I've said it a couple times, but man, I'm excited about this. I can't wait to get home and load some more. But anyways, here it is from the side. Came in, opened up. It looks like this one actually did frag quite a bit. You see fragmentation going all over the place. Looks like we did lose 2 little chunks right there by the table and then out the side. And, man, it's dumping a ton of energy. Looks like it carried about halfway to where it started to settle down just a little bit. Still pretty good track, though. You can see quite a bit more fragmentation going through. And then that last inch or so, it did really settle down and flat line, and we did make it into that second one. So let's see here from the side. I'll measure just the main track, and then I'll measure with those pedals coming off. So we are just about 2 3/4. And with those pedals coming off, we're about 3 1/4. So pretty good stuff there, man. That's quite a bit of damage. Pretty, you know, on par, pretty typical with our standard 357 SIG. So good to see there. And at our leading edge, this one is facing towards us. We are at 2 1/2 inches. So that is 13 1/2 inches of total penetration. So once again, man, awesome stuff. I'm proud that I was actually able to do this. I just started my reloading journey. I've been into it for years, you know, studying, getting all the supplies and all this. You know, I got taught by actually my brother-in-law, you know, gave me a single stage press and, you know, kind of showed me how to mess with it. So hey, it's super exciting actually, you know, putting it to work and seeing the results. And I have been testing quite a bit of 9mm too, and the same thing, man, we're getting awesome results. But anyways, enough listening to me talk. Let's set up for this one. Will be the 5th one, and this will be the Velocitus 96 grain solid copper. So let's set up and see how that one does. All right, we're setting back to 15 feet. All right, let's see how we did on that one. All right, so our impact velocity on that one was 1634. I actually did shoot one off camera right around that 650 mark. So, you know, really good to see. That's exactly what we're expecting. So awesome that even that CFE pistol powder is doing really good for 357 SIG. All right, so there's the hit for that one. Looks like I got a perfect shot. You can see right down in there, and check that out, man. Really nice start pattern. You can see that perfect tri-cut going in that gel. These are definitely some really nasty rounds. But here it is from the top. Looks like it came in, opened up really nicely. See those super distinct spiral cuts going through from that rifle and just twisting up, man. That stuff is crazy. And I've tested this quite a few times in 9, so I figured we had to load some in 357 SIG and push it to its limits. But you can see it did taper off a little bit towards the end, did flatline, and we made it quite a ways into our second block. I did have 2 jugs just in case. Usually with these solid copper rounds and those velocities were ripping pedals off, but it looks like this one stayed intact, so that is awesome. So let's see what kind of measurement we have here from the top. And at our widest spot, we are about 2 1/8 inches. So definitely not too bad. Not the most, but you know, still really good to see, man. That's awesome. And like I said, I'm happy that this thing actually stayed together. I'm pretty sure. It doesn't look like it came apart. But anyways, here it is from the side. Came in, opened up immediately. Once again, you can see that perfect spiral cut. Usually when I do cut these open, they have a really nice tri-cut going through, because these do have those 3, you know, pretty nasty petals sticking out. But it looks like it carried that energy pretty much the whole way. Maybe that last half inch or so started to settle down and made it a long ways into that second block. So let's see what kind of measurement we have here from the side. And at our widest spot from the side, we are about 1 3/4 inches. It's definitely, you know, a lot less from the side than the top, but that's okay. It was still very impressive. And once again, you can see those spiral cuts going all the way through. This one is facing away from us. Like I said, glad we were able to catch it. Glad it didn't veer off into the table. all that good stuff. And it looks like we're 9 3/4 inches into that second one, so that made it 20 3/4 inches of total penetration. So that is quite a bit. Usually when they are in 9, they're going a little bit slower, getting right around that 16 to 18 inch mark. So you know, still really good to see. So if you guys are still here in this video, thank you so much for sticking around this long. We actually do have a little bit of a bonus round, and I'll show you that right now. All right, so here's that round we were talking about. This one is actually 9mm 147 grain Ranger T series. I did actually pull one of the bullets because you know, we had to try this stuff out at a little bit higher velocities. They are moving around 990. You know, for the 9mm, we did load it for 357 sig. We did load it with a max charge of 7.5 grains of Longshot, so it should be moving around 1250. So let's set up and see how that one does. All right, we're swimming back to 15 feet. All right, let's see what we did on that one. As you can tell, we do have a leaker. All right, so it looks like our impact velocity on that one was 1169, so definitely a little bit less than you know, what we're expecting, but still quite a bit more than you know, your standard 9, which is usually under 1,000. So that one's pretty much the only one today that didn't you know, reach our advertised or hoping for velocity, but still, you know, not too bad. All right, and there's that hit. Looks like I got a pretty decent shot on that block. You can see right down in there, and a pretty nasty star pattern so far. So let's check this one out from the top. And this one is our last round of the day. But you can see that one came in, opened up really nicely. Looks like there is very, very small chunks of lead in there that it did end up dropping. Got some nice spiral cuts going all the way through. Does look like it carried them pretty much the whole way through that block. Did make it into our second block. It did flatline pretty much that whole block, and we did make it out of that one and then into our first jug. Luckily we did have some jugs just in case, so we did get quite a bit of penetration. But you know, that's not bad. It's a good and a bad thing, but these are made for 9mm, pretty much all these bullets, so you know, they're just not rated for these velocities. But anyways, let's get our measurement. So from the top, it looks like at our widest spot we're about 2 inches, so definitely not the most, but still, you know, doing pretty darn good. And here it is from the side. Came in, opened up really nicely. You can see all those little lead chunks going through, or I'm sorry, shedding from that bullet. And it does look like it carried it pretty much the whole way through that track. Let's get that little hair off. Maybe that last inch and a half or so, it did start to settle down, and then it did flatline that whole way through that second block. Let's see what kind of measurement we have here from the side. Looks like we got a little bit more. We are about 2 1/8 inches, so literally 1/8 inch more, which isn't too much more, but still pretty good. You can see that track going all the way through this one. And then we did make it out, and like I said, we did make it into our jug. We did stop it, which is good. So that is a total of 22 inches of penetration through gel. And then these are about 5.5 to 6 inches of water, and it did not come out. I don't even think it dinged the back of it. Let me check it out. Yeah, it literally just barely had enough to poke into it, but pretty good stuff. So let's check these tracks one more time from the top. Actually, you know what? We didn't do that with the rest of them, so we're not going to waste our time with doing it with this last one. I don't want to make this video more long and boring as it already is. So what we're actually going to do is pull out all these rounds and show them, and just show how they all did. All right, check all these rounds out. Looks like they all got some really, really awesome expansion, and really good to see that they all performed as well as they did. So we're going to go from right to left, just like we always do. So the first one was that Gold Dot. Second one was that Nosler. Third one was the XTP. Fourth one was that SportsMaster by Xero. Fifth one was a Velocitus VX9 solid copper. And last one was that Winchester Ranger T series. So let's get a little bit closer look. So here is that Gold Dot. You can see that one pretty much made it to its breaking point, open up to its max. It did mushroom out really nicely though. You can see that signature gold dot. Man, check that out though. Those pedals are nasty. I actually didn't think it was going to hold together as well as it did, especially at those speeds. It looks like we only lost one pedal, which I actually did find, so that is good to see. But man, check that out. That is one wicked looking round. And next one is that Nosler. Pretty much same thing with this one. This one definitely, you know, made it to its breaking point. This one was that 115 grain, and it was moving out pretty good. You can see it did mushroom back really nicely. It peeled off. Actually, I don't think it peeled off anything. Maybe a couple of those pedals. It did flatten out quite a bit though, and then the rest of the pedals did fold over that base. But pretty impressive stuff. And then the third one is that XTP. Same thing with this one. Came mushroom back really nicely. You can see these pedals definitely peeled back pretty far. Have a couple kind of sticking out, but that is definitely a nasty one. Pretty sharp too. Got to be careful when you're reaching in those blocks or whatever you're reaching out of to pull these things, because they definitely do a number. And that fourth one, this one is that Sierra. This one actually mushroomed out really nicely as well. Flattened out quite a bit. This one did peel, you know, a couple of those pedals off. It looks like there's maybe one or two hanging on, peeled over the base. This one did lose a little bit of its lead as well. And like always, we'll get our weight retentions and stuff here at the end. This one is probably my favorite of the bunch besides that gold dot. This one is the Velocitus VX9. This one is at 96 grain 9mm, and that one did absolutely perfectly. Like I said before, these solid copper bullets usually don't keep those pedals. They usually peel them off, and it's just that solid base that's going through. But this one performed awesomely. So Trey, you know, you did awesome at designing these bullets, man, and thank you for sending them out. Definitely a fun one with that. That is some nasty stuff though. Peeled back really nicely. And last but not least, we have our Winchester Ranger T-Series. This one was 147 grain. Like I said, I did just pull this, and I only loaded up one just to see what it could do. We got some pretty decent velocities though. And man, it definitely mushroomed out pretty nicely. It doesn't have, it didn't, you know, keep its profile that well, but you can still see those talons or those pedals that peeled back way over that base. But definitely looking really good. So we're going to check these out one time from the bottom. So we do have them all lined up, just so you guys can see what you know, they're looking like. And once again, thanks for being here for this super long video. You know, I know it is a little bit different than what we normally do, but I was too excited, excuse me, to you know, do these all one by one. I just wanted to, you know, bust them out and see how they did. But you know, here they all are. All did good. Let's do one more time from the top. If I can flip them over without knocking everything over. Nosler, Sierra, Velocitus, and Ranger T-Series. Come on now. But anyway, so like I said, first one was 115 grain Gold Dot, 115 grain Nosler, 124 grain XTP, 125 grain Sierra, SportsMaster, 96 grain Velocitus VX9, and 147 grain Ranger T-Series. So once again, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you for you know, sticking around in these videos and all the support that you guys have given. And as always, thanks for watching, guys. All right, guys, so we do have quite a few cross sections to get through, so we're going to try to bust them out real quick and not you know, drag this video on much longer than it needs to be. So this one is that first shot, is that 115 grain 9mm Gold Dot. So you can see we do have some really big splits down in there. Nice spider webbing going on. Same on this side. You can really see how wide those cuts are. I did remeasure these. They are peaking, averaging right the same, right that 3-inch mark. So it's definitely really good. And that thing was moving out really fast too. So let's cut it open. All right, so here's after being cut. So this bottom is the right side and this top is the left. So pretty much on impact, that thing started to open up. You can see there's really small chunks of lead in there, which is pretty typical with your, you know, your Gold Dot. Usually at the mouth of those bullets, there's really small chunks of lead in that hollow point cavity. So it looks like it did shed those. We have some huge splits going all the way through that gel. Surprisingly, that thing did come apart. It is this frag here on the right hand side. You know, those are bonded bullets. Those are 9mm bullets, and they're definitely not made to go that fast. So when you're pushing them almost 1,600 feet per second, you know, it's bound to happen. But pretty impressive that it actually stayed together as well as it did. But pretty crazy. But anyways, here's that top, same thing, literally on impact. That thing's opening up in there. and just tearing this gel up. Look how nasty that stuff is. Same thing, looks like on this side we drug in quite a bit of that fabric. Looks like there might be another little piece of lead down in there, or another petal, because we're missing 2 petals on that bullet. Man, check that out. That is crazy impressive. And like I said a few times, super excited just to even do these hand loads and to see that we are getting great results. We did do some 9mm pretty recently, and same thing, we're getting great results with them. And you know, we are loading them a little bit extra spicy, so it's always fun. So let's do one more quick angle if we can. This stuff is kind of barely hanging on, but you can see just how massive those splits and cuts are down in there. Like I said, this one did drag in a ton of that fabric, and just a huge canyon all the way through. Same on this side, immediate expansion and some huge splitting, but very impressive stuff. So that one was that 115 grain Gold Dot. All right, here's that Nosler cross section. So this one's a little bit different story. This one, of course, is not a bonded bullet, so it fragged like crazy. You can already see fragmentation all over the place in that gel. I did pull quite a bit out as well, but man, yeah, that thing is nasty. And usually when we test these, they never hold together, especially at those speeds, because Underwood does load these. They are advertised at 1550 on their site, and I usually don't come anywhere near that in my testing. So it's good to see that these ones were actually right on par with what they're trying to get. But anyways, you can see huge damage going on. Like I always say, it kind of looks like a rifle round came in and it's tearing this stuff up. But huge, massive splits. You can see those fragments kind of shooting off that path as well, or that track. And same thing here, man. Crazy amount of damage. So I did remeasure these. They are peaking right at that 4-inch mark and averaging right around that 3 3/4. So very impressive stuff. So let's cut this one open. All right, and here's after being cut. So this bottom is the right side and this top is the left. So pretty much like that last one, right around that 1/8 inch mark, it came in, started to open up. You can see where it pretty much exploded in there. Huge path going all the way through. You can see where those petals started to break apart and shear off. But man, the amount of damage is insane. And usually when we do get those high velocities and this type of bullet, you can see it pretty much comes in and turns this gel backwards. It literally just flips it around. But yeah, there's a huge canyon. This stuff is barely hanging on. Did have quite a bit of fragmentation. Like I said, I did pull quite a bit out as well. But yeah, that is definitely one nasty bullet. And the 124 grain Nosler from Underwood has always been one of my favorites. But these 115s are definitely growing on me, especially when they're moving like they're supposed to. But anyways, here's that top, same thing. You can really see what's going on. Huge path. You can see where those things are shearing off once again. But man, check out the damage on that thing. That is just insane. You can really see right there where it starts to curl that gel. But and that's some pretty springy gel too, and it literally just goes right back. So crazy to see that the power and velocity is actually doing that to this stuff. Huge path once again, going all the way through. Just some nasty stuff. It looks like it did drag in a little bit of that fabric, not as much as that Gold Dot, but still quite a bit. So let's do one more quick angle so you can see what's going on. But right there you can really tell how much gel it actually brought with it. Massive splitting. And I believe this one was just shy of that 1550. I did do a few off camera just to see, and we're right around that 1550 mark plus. So really good to see. So very impressed with the way that this stuff turned out. Same thing on this side. You see a huge chunk of that bullet right there, a big chunk of lead, and once again massive splits going on. Just an insane amount of damage. So I think we have been doing 9x25 Dillon versus 357 SIG lately, and I think this SIG can keep up with it, especially when you're doing spicy hand loads like that. Just crazy though. I just show that one more time because that is just nuts, the amount of damage. Those Noslers always tear this gel up. But anyways, that one was that 115 grain Nosler. All right, so here's that 124 grain XTP cross section. So pretty much same with this one. Huge massive splits going on. You can see right down that cavity, pretty much perfect spider webbing going on down in there. Same on this side, really big cuts. So I did remeasure these. They are peaking right at 3 1/4 and averaging right around that 3-inch mark. So it's definitely very impressive. And once again, this thing was moving. I believe it was 5 feet per second short of 1500. So that's great. I have to keep bagging on Underwood because they are rated at 1475. And half the time they don't even come close to that. So it was really cool to see that this stuff is moving just as fast as what they're trying to produce. But anyways, so let's cut this open. And the only reason I am saying that is because I am or was a huge Underwood fan. But as of lately, you know, their quality control and customer service has not been great at all. So, you know, we're kind of shying away from them. We're kind of doing our own thing now. But anyway, so this is after being cut. So the bottom is the right side and the top is the left. So you can see right there at that 1/4 inch mark where it started to open up. You could really tell right there. It started to parachute open. Huge path going all the way through that gel. There's a little bit of fragmentation. I actually pulled out just a couple pieces, not as much as you know, that last Nosler, but still, it definitely is fragging. That thing was moving at pretty nasty velocities, but you can see we got a ton of damage. Huge splits going all the way down in there. Very impressive stuff. Same on this top. You can probably see a little bit better. Came in, and then you can see some of those petals coming off. I believe we did lose you know, a little bit out of the block too as well. A couple escaped the block, but that's okay. But a ton of damage going on. Massive cuts going all the way down in there. Let's do one more quick angle. Like I said, we're going to try to keep these a little bit shorter than normal because we have so many to get through. But you can see just what's really going on, man. Just crazy stuff. Very impressive. And here's this other one. That one you can really tell how much gel it's taken with it. Nice deep canyon going down in that gel. Massive splitting. So there we go. That one was at 124 grain XTP. All right, and there's that cross section for that Sierra SportsMaster. This one almost looks the same as that XTP. They were almost designed the same as well, but you can see massive splits. Once again, perfect spider webbing, perfect star pattern down in there. Looks like there is a little bit of fragmentation, and this one did actually frag quite a bit. Is this little pile on the left. The one on the right was that XTP. Didn't come apart too much, but same thing on this side. Really big splits going all the way down in there. So I did remeasure these. They are peaking and averaging right at the same, right, that 3-inch mark. So very impressive for that. And that one was moving right at 1450, so that was awesome to see as well. So let's cut it open. All right, so here's after being cut. So this bottom is the right side and this top is the left. So, you know, as soon as that thing came in, probably around that 1/8 inch mark, it started to open up. You can see that huge path on this one as well. And it looks like there is some fragmentation down in there, but we got some nasty damage. This one is almost looking like that Nosler. It kind of reacted the same way too. This one does have a mean hollow point cavity in the front of that bullet too. But man, that is some nasty stuff. It definitely, you know, jumble this gel up for sure. So here's that top, same thing. You can see where it came in, opened up, and this one almost did react like that Nosler. It pretty much brought that gel in, same thing, and then kind of flipped it around, which is crazy. There's quite a bit of fabric that it did drag in as well, but nasty splitting. This stuff is barely hanging on too. That thing was definitely doing a number for sure. So let's do one more quick angle so we can get a better idea what's going on and how crazy that stuff actually is. But check that out. Insane. Would not want to be on the receiving end of that one. And you know, 1450 was great to see. That is usually what your standard, or you know, a little bit better than standard these days. 357 Magnum should be moving at 125 grain at 1450 out of about out of that you know, 4-inch barrel. So awesome to see that we are getting out of a 4-inch semi-auto. You know, actual bullet travel, that thing is probably only about you know, 2 3/4 inches. So pretty crazy stuff. But check that out, man. That is a nasty wound for sure. But anyways, that one was that 125 grain Sierra SportsMaster. All right, so there's that cross section for that 96 grain solid copper hollow point by Velocitus. You know, this one was super impressive too. This one probably impressed me the most because it actually held together. And like I said before, these solid copper bullets don't hold together at those, you know, extreme velocities. Every one that I've tested so far, they always come apart. They shear the petals off, and it's usually just the base or the slug going through. So this stuff actually held together just barely at that 1650 mark. This one only hit 1634, I believe. Off camera, I did shoot a few were right on the dot at 1650. So really consistent, good to see. But you can see this one does have that very distinct tri-cut in there. That one does have that 3 petals. Nasty looking stuff though. Same over here. You can see right down that cavity. So I did remeasure these. They are peaking right at 2.5 inches and averaging right around that 2 1/4 mark. So you know, definitely very impressive for what it was. So let's cut it open. All right, so here's after being cut. So this bottom is the right side and this top is the left. So it looks like pretty much as soon as that thing came in, we got rapid expansion. You can see that path going all the way through. This one did have some really nice distinct spiral cuts going through that gel. And you know, I have tested this in the 9 a few times already, and we do get some really clean cuts, even cleaner than your standard Gold Dot. And those ones do come out pretty nice, very uniform. But this stuff is some nasty stuff for sure. You can see those nasty splits down in there. Really big cut. Same on this side, came in, opened up, and it actually carries it out a pretty good ways through that block. It doesn't taper as quick as you know, your standard kind of like a lead jacketed hollow point, lead and copper. But same thing, man. Came in, opened up, you see a nice wide path, and just tearing this stuff up. You can really see how deep those cuts are and how distinct those cuts are. Pretty crazy stuff. So Mr. Trey, you guys designed an awesome bullet over at Velocitus, and definitely gonna have to pick up some more to load for that SIG, because this is some nasty stuff, especially at this velocity. But one more time, a quick angle, you can see right down in there, huge cuts. And this one always does that tri cut, which is really cool too, more so than just your standard excuse me, like spiral cut, kind of like the spider web pattern or star pattern. It's more tri, which is really cool. But same thing on this side. Crazy looking splits down in there. Really clean cuts and very big cuts. And that one was moving out, over 1,600 feet per second. So that was also very impressive. So there we go. That one was at 96 grain Velocitus. All right, last but not least, this one was that bonus round that I did. I didn't put it in the intro, but I did want to, test it out, of course. This one was that 147 grain Ranger T series. This one was a 9mm bullet. I literally just pulled it out of, some really fresh ammo and then loaded it for 357 SIG. This is the only one that really didn't get up to specs. We loaded it for around 1250-ish. We got 1169, which is still great. Definitely better than, anything 9mm can produce, but yeah, so same thing, nice splits. This one you can see right down in there. It does have a really nice spider webbing going on. There's some fragmentation down in there. Same on this side, pretty decent cut. So I did remeasure these. They are peaking right at 2.5 and averaging right at that 2.25. So literally the same as that Velocitus, but pretty impressive stuff for sure. So let's cut it open. All right, and here's after being cut. So the bottom is the right and the top is the left. So pretty much like all the rest, man. That thing came in right around that 1/4 inch, a little bit after quarter actually. This one was a little bit more delayed than the others. You can see where it started to open up, creating a nice path going all the way through. Pretty nice damage. This one did fragment, quite a bit. There was a lot more that I'm going to be pulling out. Like I always do, I'll get a weight retention, everything here at the end. But yeah, this one definitely fragged. This one was not made to move at those speeds. Usually we're getting around 990 to 980, 1,000 if we're lucky. So to be moving almost 1,200 feet per second, yeah, I definitely couldn't handle it. But you can see it definitely got some nasty damage going through there. Really big splits and cuts. Same on this side, came in, opened up. You can see that path a little bit better on this side. And, just fragmentation kind of going here and there. This one did actually drag in some fabric, which is kind of surprising. Those hollow point cavities aren't the biggest on these. They're very narrow. But good to see that even with that fabric in front, it was expanding no matter what. Because we all know, Ranger Tees are kind of finicky if you do put fabric in front, but crazy stuff. Yeah, there's a big chunk right there. Drug quite a bit in. We'll do one more quick angle on this one, just so we can see what's going on. Not the most damage out of the ones that we tested today, but still pretty impressive. That 147 grain is heavy for caliber for 357 SIG. I know a lot of people don't really care for them, but figured we'd throw this one in just for fun. I've been wanting to see what those things can do at a little bit higher velocities than your standard 9. So still very impressive. You can see all that damage and that huge track going all the way through that gel. So once again, thank you guys. I appreciate you so much for being here and watching this super long video, and going on our hand loading journey for this awesome caliber. But as always, appreciate you guys being here, and once again, thanks for watching.